you have arrived on your journey to the musical people and journeys halls of new rock music. So welcome, rock fans. Welcome to my wonderful panel, to Paul, to Trish, and to Chris, and to Lauren. Today we are reviewing Deftones and their new album, Private Music. And we're rating about 5 for our listening pleasure. Let's see if it gets into our Hall of Fames then. Now, somebody who's not deaf to music, Trish, what do you think of Deftones?
What'd you say? What'd you say?
Hey, who, what, when?
Who, what, where, when, how? So this band I have heard of, but not actively been on my radar to listen to. So I was looking forward to it being bought for us to listen to this month. Really dark melodic rock vibes on this album, which I love, and where Black Orchid Empire and White Raven Down have set the benchmark for me in this genre. So a band must bring something special to this genre for me to welcome it to my heart. The track Easedesis does just that to Proceedings, as do the rest of the tracks that follow. Absolutely love the drums and guitars sound on Cut Hands. For sure, this album has joined the elite listening of this genre for me. Whilst it was a slow burner for me to begin with, after a couple of listens, you certainly appreciate the band and the music that they're making.
What sort of music are they making then, Trish, do you know?
Yeah, dark melodic rock.
Dark melodic rock? Paul, would you agree with that?
Well, you could call it that if you wanted to. So look, Deftones have been around for quite a while now and are regarded by many as the best of the new metal bands from the late 90s. Now, their brand awareness seems to have increased even higher in popularity with the rise of Sleep Token and Bad Omens. If you feel that Deftones peaked with their 1910 album, Diamond Eyes, or their career-defining White Pony, think again. Private Music is probably the most complete album that they have made in a long time. It feels more suited to our current times than any offering currently out there. My mind is a mountain, and Milk of Madonna are absolute crackers. The more I listened to this album, the more I appreciated it and enjoyed it.
Ooh. Lauren? Appreciate? Enjoy?
Yeah, it was one of those where, having heard of the Deftones and stuff, I'd never really listened to any of their stuff in particular. So, yeah, it took a bit more sort of, again, like I usually do, it took a bit more reading and a little bit of background sort of looking at, because they've always been in the sphere of like a big name out there, but not one that I've necessarily gravitated towards. Having looked at sort of like the forums and that, where people are talking about the Deftones and stuff like that, I can easily see where this album is a total winner for a seasoned Deftones fan. Like it makes sense. For me personally, it just didn't really sort of grab me and make me listen. That doesn't take away from the fact that it's well made, it is well produced, and it is completely good in its own right. Exactly like Paul said, we're seeing more and more of this sort of stuff sort of creep in and really take sort of a chokehold on the rock scene. It almost just sort of gave me the vibe, with looking at the Deftones and sort of their back catalogue and stuff, it almost gave the vibe of, they do these initial explorations and then they lay the foundations for other bands to then listen to it and take just sheer inspiration and go, oh yeah, that sounds pretty cool. Well, let's try it and give it a bit of this sort of flair of our flavour and stuff like that. And I can't fault them for that. I think that's really cool when a band does that. But for me, it is always meant with certain bands, if I haven't then been on that journey with them, where they're the ones setting the foundations, I sort of just get to reap the rewards of the end product of all these other bands that then take it and really refine it down and stuff like that. So, yeah, for me overall, it's a good album. It's not going to be a major go-to for me, just because I have other stuff that A, fits in my wheelhouse a bit better, and B, I think they might do a little bit better. Sorry, Deftones fans. But yeah, overall, that doesn't take away from it. They know what they're doing, and they do it well.
So Trish described it as dark melodic rock, Paul as new metal. How would you describe it?
For me, it's sort of an odd mixture, because it does have that. It's almost like, I think Paul's comparisons of the likes of Bad Omens and Sleep Token really sort of worked for me, because it is that odd sort of blending of those different genres. I personally would veer more into like the melodic dark side, simply because, again, with the likes of Sleep Token and stuff, that is what you get with them, with a bit of theatricality thrown in. So I think they lay good foundations in that sense, but I think it's quite hard to pin down in places for me personally, because they just do that exploration into what it is, but it's not pinned down and refined, which for some people is heaven to the ears, but for me just sort of makes you go, oh, okay, and then just carry on.
Chris, has the month brightened up for you?
With Deftones, unfortunately not. Now, so I kind of agree with what Lauren's saying. I think Deftones are the sort of people that will pave the way with new things that people might like, and then someone else will come along, pick them up, and build them into their sound. And for me, it works when it's built into someone else's sound. As Deftones themselves, again, I've said it a couple of times in a couple of albums this month, but it's the lyrical style more than anything that just sort of leaves me cold. It's just there's no real drive to it for me when I'm listening to it. I used to listen a little bit back when I was at uni, and things like "Change in the House of Flies" is a song that I know and I always remember. But again, that is quite a lyrically slow sort of almost, the lyrics almost meander on that track as well, and it's the music that I'm listening to. And this is a similar sort of thing again. But I mean, the note that I made when I first started listening to the album was, have Deftones gone more prog rock than I remember? And I don't think that's the case, but that was just the immediate response I had to it when I started listening to it. It's kind of, it didn't sit for me at all this month. I don't know whether it's, this month and with, the year that we've had in terms of music, it just doesn't fit well for me at all. And I didn't enjoy listening to it. I think it is one of those sort of albums that at a different time, or with a bit more time to grow on me, it would, as you were saying earlier with some of your reviews, Nigel, it might grow over time, and it might just sort of embed itself and get me into the right mood to listen to it. But it didn't work for me this month. And as I listen back on some of the older Deftones that I used to listen to, I'm just not a fan of them anymore, which is nothing against them. What they do very well, and they have been doing very well for their entire career. But I'm not the target audience, so I'm not the fan base they're looking for.
Ah, okay. See, I'm somewhere kind of in the middle. I think it was better than Sleep Token, but it was certainly, I think it just, because I like the dark melodic rock, and it didn't quite, I don't think there was enough melody in there. And there was also, I felt there was elements of punk in there as well. It just, there was a blend, and that blend didn't kind of, I enjoyed some of it. I think, Infinite Source for me was the standout track. I really enjoyed that. I don't know, it just, I agree with you. I think there was elements of it, maybe, I think we were headed down that prog rock kind of, and then bring it back a little bit, so they didn't go quite as far as maybe as Sleep Token kind of do. And it's just, I couldn't decide whether I liked the album, but I didn't love it. I think it's probably my apt description here. It certainly wasn't boring, and it certainly was very listenable to, but I just couldn't get to love it. But I enjoyed it, I think is the app there. But have we enjoyed it enough for it to get into our Hall of Fame? Let's find out. Chris, let's start with you.
Oh, you chose the wrong person to start with. I gave this a 2.
Well, maybe I have, but maybe there's a method to my madness, Chris. Lauren.
I gave it a 2.5.
Wow, okay. Okay. I give this a 3.5. There we go. So pretty good. So is there any hope Is there any hope for this? Trish?
4.5.
4.5. Andy Dicker give this a 4.5. He also loved it. Now, Paul, a 5 from you would get the Deftones into the Hall of Fame, Paul. A 5 from my brother, a 5 from somebody who thought this album was absolutely
Not
terrific.
happening.
A 5 from Paul. Now, don't forget, he's given 1 5 so far this month. Will it be 2? And will Deftones make it into our Hall of Fame? Paul, what'd you give Deftones? An album you loved.
I'd give it 5.
Ah, that's fantastic. Well, no, you didn't, did you?
No, I didn't. I give it 4.5. Why is that?
I told you there was a method to my madness, Christopher. Anyway, a whopping 3.9. Oh, so close. If only Trish, Andy, or Paul had just tipped it over the balance there, it would have got it, because we dropped Chris's 2 there.
Again,
a 3.9 out of the 598 albums reviewed, 151st, which is pretty damn good. 58th in our top half of albums that we reviewed this year. Won't get into our top 20, unfortunately. Not even as a wild pick, because it didn't get into the Hall of Fame. Thanks to Trish and Paul and Andy. In the meantime, do you agree? Do you disagree? Leave your comments below. Do let us know your thoughts. In the meantime, hit the like and subscribe button. That'd be amazing. And thank you very much for tuning in. Goodbye, and keep on rocking.